conspiratorial as and what has happened to our election system, because this is all part of the same conspiracy. People will go vote if they believe that the elections are fair.
Yes.
And that's what has to happen. And people off-cycle elections like the midterms and all this kind of stuff, people have to go vote, and they will vote if they believe that there's been positive changes. And I know that President Trump, believe me, he's up to his eyeballs in that. I know that for a fact. And it won't be easy because there's going to be a lot of people who don't want them to be fair fighting against him. And that's where the American people, your audience, has to stand our ground and say, this is what we demand.
I'll give you one little sneaky little thing that my friend Pat Byrne has made known just in the last few hours. The building where the servers were at, a portion of them in Serbia, that were used to flip the election in 2020 and 2024, that building, the person who is essentially defected and come over to the American side and is giving information behind the scenes that will be part of war crimes trials, Gitmo in the future. That person said his business partner on the building where those servers were located was John Brennan. Now think about that. If that isn't an earthquake revelation.
Now, in terms of overseas interference, because you mentioned like Venezuela, there's all the noise about Serbia. What I can 100% guarantee, 100%, is that there was foreign interference of our elections. And it is very clear that it goes back to at least 2020, possibly goes back further than that. And that's why Venezuela is such a key component of this issue, because of what we know. And all that information came out right after the 2020 election, but nobody wanted to believe it. We weren't able to be as clear as possible. So it's taken years and a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice, and frankly, lives. It actually costs lives to get to where we're at.
You talk about secure elections, and there's been some considerable reporting done about your role in 2024 and saving our elections from being stolen by digital and electronic voting, and some of the capacities through Venezuelan companies. And I think some of what's happening in Venezuela, frankly, ties back to this. We have some good sourcing on that. Yeah. But Venezuelan companies that can and do rig elections around the world through electronic voting, and that they can algorithmically just shift the votes. And it is a code and it is an algorithm, and that they can deplete or increase based on the numbers and the pure margins, voting blocks across certain key counties and rig elections.
You mean to tell me that the director of the CIA during the time period they were getting up to and prepping for the 2020 election had a business interest in the building where those things were placed that were used in flipping the election? Do you think we should just prosecute that as a policing matter over at the Justice Department? Or do you think that is treasonous?
When people see and hear how foreign entities and countries interfered in our elections to basically overthrow our country, but they did it in line with people here inside. That's what's even more egregious. And that's the one thing that for me personally is I don't fear China, I don't fear Russia, I don't fear Iran, I don't fear any of these over Venezuela, I don't fear any of these people. I've been there, done that. What I am most concerned about is the insidiousness of people inside of our own system, inside of our government, that are trying to work against our country. That's what I am most concerned about. And I know that President Trump is as well. So mentioned a couple of names of those people that I think are going to be the easiest ones to talk first. Guys like Clapper, right, if he makes it to the next year. So if we discover that machines or any part of a machine is made overseas, or there are elements that are running through systems that are overseas, we can't have that. We just can't have that. And so, but yet we do. We may have to go to a place where we just ban all machinery, and we go to paper ballots, and we count paper ballots, which is not, even in this 21st century, that's not out of the question. I mean, it's not out of the question. And to do it properly, to do it correctly, to do it at precinct level. And that's why I've said, in the past that probably the most important person on an election day is a precinct captain, even in a presidential election, because those are the people that have to hustle and they know what their jobs are. That's why I say local action. People got to get involved. There's There's so much that is at stake, and we cannot have a system, an election system, particularly the machinery, that is made in another country or is capable of being subverted from overseas, which is what we learned.
Trump's going to issue a national security emergency executive action for the way that we do the vote for 2026. Why did everybody show up on January 6th in Washington, D.C.? Do you know that was the largest turnout of American citizens in Washington, D.C. ever? What were they there for? They weren't there to tear Washington, D.C. apart. If they wanted to, they could have. When the electors, the ones with information like came out of Tina's office, showed up with false information and then put somebody in office who clearly was not the will of the people in a fraudulent election. Tina did something important, beautiful for all of us, and then she's suffering. She's giving up minutes of her life for all of us in this fraud of the 2020 election and her prosecution and the illegal prosecution within the state. Yeah, we need to bust her free and give her a life. But she's a political prisoner in a rigged election. President Trump has to and will institute a national emergency related to elections. When he does that, the executive order comes after the declaration of a national emergency related to elections. So within the national emergency, Trump ordered that the voter rolls by executive order be cleaned up. How many counties across the country cleaned up their voter rolls and got them 100%? So they didn't clean the voter rolls. They kind of thumbed their nose, gave Trump the finger. We're not doing anything. You know, what are you going to do about it? So he gave an executive order which wasn't honored, acted upon, obeyed, given any weight. 180 days has passed. That was back at September 25th. Nothing happened. What's Trump going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Huh? What are you going to do about it? Okay, you think Trump is without power. What Trump has to do is institute a national security emergency declaration. And under those emergency powers, take control of the election system, starting where they didn't comply in Executive Order 107 with the voter rolls, and force, instead of cleaning up the existing system, this is really, really, really key. It just can't be cleaned up. Setting it aside, we're not going to destroy it. We're going to set it aside because we're going to go back and prosecute people that were voting illegally, by the way. So we'll keep those records, but we'll set them aside. And now for 2026, 2028, if you want to vote, you've got to show up at the county, at the clerk's office, in person, with government-issued ID. You're going to have to re-register to vote, show your current address so you can be assigned to a precinct to vote in. And then you're going to do all of that under oath. I am authorized. I am a citizen. I, do live at this place, and it's going to be recorded. All of the county clerks are in fact notaries, so they will notarize and stamp your signature. You're the person that presented themselves. The notary is under reporting obligations under penalty of law, and the person signing that is also under notice under penalty of prosecution for filing a false voter registration card. Clean voter rolls are the first thing in this national election emergency, so that we only have citizens voting and they're voting at the right place. No mail-in votes, none for 2026, 2028, no mail-in. Within that national security elections order, anybody that wants to go through the courts, here's the wild part, no courts. It's in a national emergency. They can go take evidence related to elections under the national emergency, and you don't go through the courts. No judge can stop Trump from telling the counties they have to re-register all voters. You can't go to a judge and get them to overturn President Trump's emergency national security order because it's a continuity in government thing. If a judge tries to interfere and issues some order, the judge is now an insurrectionist. They're acting in a seditious manner, and therefore they can be picked up, the zip ties put on their wrists, and taken in and prosecuted for sedition.